Hi everyone, it's Brian here and I'm coming to you from the UK Tarot Conference 2018, which is why I am in this somewhat strange position. I am crouched down between the end of my bed and the kind of dresser in my room, because it's really the only place I can actually sit and prop the camera up and have a bit of light on me, etc, etc. So if at some point I suddenly get a cramp in my leg, which is quite possible, and I have to shift, please forgive me. Equally, if the camera suddenly falls over, it's because it's propped up against an iron at the moment and is very precariously balanced. So I don't know how well it's actually going to work, but we'll try. Because I had to come on, I had to film this video, because there's something I need to share with you. And it's not as though it hasn't already been shared in other videos, but I thought it was appropriate for me to say something about it, because I have just had the absolute privilege and joy of sitting in a workshop given by the amazing Benebell, who opened the conference with a special event this evening, the Thursday evening, and did this amazing presentation on, well, I can't even encapsulate in only a few words exactly what it was about, because it's just a bit more complicated than that. But basically she demonstrated to us the connection between tarot cards and I Ching hexagrams, and not just quantum physics but various other types of physics. And she did amazing things like link certain cards to different laws of physics and different scientific principles, and she showed us how to generate I Ching hexagrams using a tarot card reading. And she explained how it all worked from a philosophical and spiritual perspective, and it was just amazing, absolutely amazing, mind-blowing but amazing, and thoroughly enjoyable. So that was great, that was absolutely fantastic, and really enjoyed that. And I had the privilege of meeting Benebell as well, having interacted with her online for a while, and now had the chance to meet her in person, and she was every bit as lovely as I knew she would be, and the presentation was every bit as brilliant as I knew it would be. And I was very lucky to be one of the people who got a first edition of her Spirit Keepers Tarot, which you know, is just amazing. Now, I'm not going to do an unboxing and first impressions because I couldn't wait, and I ripped into it straight away. And also I wanted to be able to in this video say a little bit about a bit more than an unboxing. I wanted to say a little bit about the deck itself. Now, I'm not going to pretend for a second that I have used it. I haven't. I only got it about, what, 2 hours ago. But what I have done, by the way, excuse if there's any gurgling noises you're hearing, it's just some kind of plumbing thing happening in my room. I don't know what's going on, but every so often I hear a gurgling noise. It could be the air conditioning, I suppose. So don't let that put you off. So I have opened this up. There's a couple of things I want to just point out which are absolutely lovely. One is there's a limited run of this first edition of 1,000 decks, and each one is numbered, and I got number 72. And what was so nice is that I was given a choice and asked if it was okay that I was given 72, and I said yes, absolutely, that would be marvellous. Particularly marvellous because 7 and 2 of course add up to 9, and my recent series Tarot to the Nines is one of the things that Benebell and I had a chat about, so that seemed very appropriate from my point of view, so very happy with that. Also, we got on our table settings, we got a little placemat thing. Everyone had a different card from the Spirit Keepers Tarot, and I have the 10 of Chalices, so we'll come to that a bit later on when we actually go through the deck. So let me just make sure I don't put anything in the wrong place and I have everything to hand. So what I've also done, as you can see, is I've gone through the little white book that comes with the deck, and I've already started making little bookmarks. It doesn't come like this. I have gone through and selected a few things that I want to read out to you to help you understand this deck, because this is a unique and different deck. It is recognisably tarot, and you will see some obvious influences in there, particularly from some Rider-Waite-Smith influences and Thoth influences that Benebell actually talks about in the book. But it is also completely unique and a thing in itself, which is based on Benebell's approach to tarot and her thinking about tarot from a very fresh and new perspective, which is just really thrilling. Now, one of the things that I think it's probably worth saying to you is that many of you will know that this deck seemingly emerged in a kind of frenetic burst of creativity and activity from Benebell. She posted a couple of images of tarot deck-like pictures on her Instagram several months ago now, I suppose, certainly weeks ago, and kind of said, oh, you know, what do people think about this? I wonder where it's going to go. And of course people were very encouraging and said, this is amazing, hope you do more. And then this amazing experience of watching this tarot deck being birthed as she just worked seemingly around the clock and painted or drew these amazing cards, and now here we are, and we have actually got the deck. Some of us have got the deck in our hands, which is just amazing. That is not to say that this deck is something that's been put together in an unplanned way. Clearly it's not. And actually, when you look into what Benebell has written about in her book, you'll see that this is deeply and very thoroughly researched and influenced by a number of different and fascinating philosophical perspectives, and Benebell does go into that a bit in this little white book. What I should also tell you is that she's also written a larger guidebook to go with the deck, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I don't want to adjust the light particularly because we might lose the camera setting. This is the PDF version of the Book of Maps, which is you know, as the name suggests, a book which is a kind of a guidebook to the deck. And look, there are pictures in here of Benebell actually at work. I hope you can see that. That's pictures of her drawing the cards as they emerged, and the story in there of you know, how she drew the cards, when she drew the cards, and how they were developed. And it's fascinating. If somebody is interested in the development of a tarot deck or any kind of deck of this sort, then there's lots of information in the Book of Maps about that. But I haven't had a chance to look at that in great detail yet. I've only just downloaded it, and so I'm going to go by this very summarized version, which is still extremely comprehensive, in the little white book. So what I thought would be sensible is I will do a flip through of the cards, but I think it would be useful if I just gave you a little bit of a just read you some things from this book so that you've got a sense of where Benebell's coming from. So let me take a sip. Oh, I was going to take a sip of my drink, but this is actually an empty mug. Where is my drink? I don't know where I put it. Slight edit there because I realised that I hadn't actually made my cup of coffee. So unlike Benebell, who thinks about making a tarot deck and makes a tarot deck, I think about making a cup of coffee but fail to actually make it. So I had to stop the video and get my coffee. So now all is good. Right, back to the little white book of Spirit Keeper's Tarot. So here, there's a bit in here about the genesis of the deck, and then here are a couple of things that I think are really important in terms of where Benebell is coming from with this deck and what the deck can be used for. So what she writes is, in terms of the angelology I've based this tarot deck on, the primary angel you'll be working with is your own holy guardian angel, which in Zoroastrian angelology is referred to as the Arda Fravash or Fravashis. The design and sacred engineering of Spirit Keeper's Tarot facilitates connection to your holy guardian angel by using the theory of Prisca Theologia to tap into a universal channel of divine, beneficent beings. According to the belief system I've built my deck around, since birth you've been accompanied by a holy guardian angel who is your guide throughout your lifetime, a beneficent celestial entity that connects you directly to God, the Holy One, or a divine monad. We can invoke our holy guardian angel whenever we are in danger, whether that is danger that threatens us externally or danger that threatens us from within. And then later on she writes, you already possess latent connections to your holy guardian angel, though for most of us we seem to lack the right telecommunication device to receive clear signals from our angel. What I've sought to do with Spirit Keeper is to augment the classic system of the tarot deck and formulate a reliable and also clear communication device for transmitting messages between you and your holy guardian angel, and then under the watchful presence of your angel to communicate with the full spectrum of spirits that are underpinning the underpinning of our physical world. Then she also says, though the deck operates beautifully for everyday tarot readings, I've illustrated Spirit Keeper's Tarot with the designated purpose of conveying esoteric knowledge and creating a platform for divine transmissions. To that end, each card is layered with symbolism and allegory. Each card is also designed to tell a story, to introduce you to a complete psychic realm, and to invite you to pathwork and journey into that realm. The more you pathwork with the cards, the stronger you build the foundations of your inner temple. What is within you is reflected outward, so when you possess a strong inner temple, the rest of your physical life will seem to just fall into place, harmonized, fruitful, productive, and fulfilled. So, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else here that we need to know. So in terms of the development of the deck and the making of the deck, she writes here, the crafting of Spirit Keeper's Tarot was steeped in ritual. Both a process I'll refer to as evidence-based ritual and intuition-based ritual. For evidence-based ritual, prior to work on each and every card, I would read its entry in Waite's Pictorial Key and Crowley's Book of Thoth. So I mentioned that there was RWS and Thoth influences, and here they are. Then I would reference Papus, MacGregor Mathers, Ouspensky and Wynne Westcott. While working on this deck, I was reading the Corpus Hermeticum, the Book of the Cave of Treasures, the Cloud of Unknowing, Albert Mackey's The Symbolism of Freemasonry, the Avestan texts of Zoroastrianism, the Gathas, the Songs of Zarathustra, the Chaldean Oracles of Zoroaster, the Oracles of Nostradamus, and Kappadia's The Teachings of Zoroaster. Egyptian, Persian, Gnostic and Hermetic texts on magic and medieval grimoires from both Europe and the Middle East were consulted during the crafting of Spirit Keeper's Tarot. So there are loads and loads of incredible influences in here. And then she goes on to say, every card is drawn with consecrated ink only. I anointed myself with holy oil prior to working on the cards, and I only worked on the cards within closed, sanctified, sacred space. I began each session of work with prayer and closed with prayer. I constantly stopped to monitor my own frame of mind and my environment to ensure a steady atmosphere of beneficence. So this deck has been created through a magical act. So as well as the intellect and art that has gone into this, Benebell has taken an approach where she has effectively created a tarot deck through a magical working, a sustained magical working, which is absolutely fascinating. So we're nearly at the point of going into the cards. So just to perhaps say that she then goes into the structure of the card, both in terms of major and minor, and what you'll find is that they are recognizable but also somewhat different. So let me begin. I'm going to try and do this without dropping the cards everywhere or spilling my coffee on them, which would just be that would just be horrific. I would weep. So here is, well, let me just show you. See, I've dropped a card already. First of all, we're in the majors and there are 3 card zeros. There is the Initiate, there is the Seeker, and there is the Keeper. And just to show you the structure of what's on the cards, obviously there is the picture, the line drawing that Benebell has done. There is the title, if you like, or the official title of the card, but also the name of the card at the top, and there are symbols at the top. So Benebell writes about the structure in the book. So the top caption of each major arcanum features the elemental or astrological correspondence at the left, that's up at the top. The center is the name of the spirit as revealed to me that occupies the depths beneath the pulse point of the classic tarot key. So here the classic Fool, the spirit that Benebell identified for this version of the Fool, is the Keeper, and we'll come on to that in a second. And to the right is the associated logos or letter from the Proto-Canaanite Phoenician alphabet corresponding with that key. and she is talking about using the key 0 as a significator. A classic divinatory technique in tarot reading transplanted in from horary astrology is the use of a significator. In Spirit Keeper, the significator card will always be key 0, which is traditionally the Fool card. However, which version of key 0 being used will depend on where in the path of discovery the operator of the deck is at. So if you are inquiring about a new undertaking, or when a path has not yet been chosen or taken, or when insight is needed on which road to take forward, use the initiate, key 0. Use this embodiment of the mystic fool when what is sought is experience. And that is the initiate. Then, the seeker, use the seeker for key 0 when divinatory insight is sought, when the adept needs guidance midstream along a path, or when divine communion is sought. This is the mystic fool who seeks knowledge, wisdom, truth, and to better understand the operations of the universe and the divine. This is the seeker in search of systematic knowledge of the cosmos. And we have, the gurgling has stopped. It'll start again in a second. The keeper. And the keeper for key 0 is used by the seasoned practitioner of the craft to empower the tarot deck as calling cards for the roster of spirits embodied within the sigils and seals of these cards. Use the keeper for spirit petitions, invocations and evocations, or direct communion with the spirit entities resident within the cards. In other words, intentional use of the keeper for key 0 will enliven the deck immediately and open it to spirit communications, and primarily spirit communications as the mode of divination. And this is also the version of key 0 to use in mediumship, work, ancestor contact, or to reach beyond and beneath the physical realm to interact directly with the spirit realm. So that is key 0. Then we have the first septenary, which is the first 7 of the majors, and that is integrate the self. The first septenary is the exposition of the narrative arc, where the precise setting of a life path is revealed. And key 7, the chariot, marks the rising action. So there's lots of information about how these cards move on from each other, but for the sake of time, and so we don't run out of time, I will just show you the cards, and they are just so worth seeing. So, card 1, the Magus. Divinity in man, powers of the spirit. The Priestess, sanctuary of Isis. The Empress, Gloria Mundi, Urania's gate. Amazing drawings. The Emperor, commander of intellections. The Holy See, master of the arcanes. The Lovers, mystery of the covenant. And the Chariot, chariot of Osiris. So we now are moving on to the next septenary, the second septenary, which is integrate the cosmos. The order of keys in the second septenary initiates your understanding of the cosmos, or as Papus notes, the keys to understanding the constitution of man. This septenary reveals the collective system of principles governing the human condition. It's about understanding the compositional nature of humanity. If the first septenary is the pathwork for understanding yourself, then the second septenary is the pathwork for understanding the social order and natural laws of your world. So, the Force, the tamed lion. the erudite, hermit of the mysteries. Wheel of life, the sphinx, destiny turning. The chancellor, angel of justice. The outlaw, sacrifice and redemption. The reaper, passage to initiation. The angel, a divine higher genius. And we then move on, of course, to let me just check where we are. So yeah, the Reaper and then the Angel. Yes, so now we're on to the third septenary. Integrate the divine. The third septenary reveals the keys towards ascension. Papus describes it as the revelation of the human will, or more precisely, the divinity and power of will, integrating providence and destiny. And she says here, now remember the last septenary ended with the angel, and the next one begins with the demon. After meeting the angel, you will immediately thereafter confront the demon. You know you've begun the final prong of your spiritual journey when you're thrust into a battle with the Typhon. The tower is the moment your material and spiritual world collide. That's what comes next. So the demon is battling the Typhon. And the tower is material and spiritual colliding. The healer, gifts of the spirit. The necromancer, gateway of resurrection. The warrior, master of the mystic light. Apocalypse, last judgment. And New World Order, crown of the Magi. And those are the majors. So we're going to move on now to the minors, and the minors you'll see are somewhat different as well, and the structure of the minors is also somewhat different. So it might be a bit difficult for me to actually describe this properly because I've only just kind of looked at it, but we'll go through it as we can. So Benebell actually starts by talking about there being 7 upper realms, first of all, in the minors, and the way that those realms work are the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and then a set of four sets of 4 court cards. The Holy Guardians of Fire, the Holy Guardians of Water, the Holy Guardians of Air, and the Holy Guardians of Earth. But you'll see that the structure is not quite as simple as that makes it sound. It's a bit more sophisticated than that. And then from that point, so you've had the 1s, 2s, 3s, and then the courts. Then you start the descent. This is the upper realm, and then the descent, beginning with the 4s and downwards. So what she actually describes is that the upper realms relate to conception and the first signs of growth or development. The aces are the divine seeds that are implanted into our minds and hearts, which we then channel outwards to materialize. The aces will begin to manifest in the realm of 2s. The 3s then give birth, descending from the upper realm to the lower realm, and the first sign of what has materialized having function is in the fours. So you start off with the aces. So let's just go into the aces. And I'll pause when we get to the courts to say a bit about that. So here we have Ace of Scepters, the Awakening, Sacred Fire. Ace of Chalices, the Purifying, Holy Water. Ace of Swords, the Consummating, Sacred Cinnabar. Ace of Orbs, the Darkening, Bread of Life. Two of Scepters, the Discerning One. Two of Chalices, I want to say the Joined One. It could be joined, but I want to say Joined One. Two of Chalices, the Joined One. Two of Swords, the Blind Seer. I love that. I love them all, but that I think says a lot about what that card actually means. It can be a bit of a problem card for some people, but I think that says a lot. Two of Orbs, the Nocturne. Three of Scepters, the Politic. The Kindred, Three of Chalices. Three of Swords is the Bereaved. And Three of Orbs is the Mason. So I'm going to pause here because the way that the deck is ordered is we now go into the courts. And let me just read to you what we have for the courts. The Empyrean courts in the upper realms are sectioned by elementals, the holy guardians of fire, water, air and earth. However, in this booklet the court cards will be explained by hierarchy. So the kings, which are called archangels, will be covered together, then the queens, which are shields, and so on. So we're working within this framework of traditional tarot court titles: king, queen, knight and page. In Spirit Keeper, the positions are occupied by a hierarchy of guardians, archangels, powers, virtues and strongholds respectively. So let's go into this. So here are the archangels, which are the equivalent of the kings. Archangel of Glory, Angel of Art and Grace. Archangel of Healing, Angel who salves and purifies. Archangel Commander is the Angel of Storms and Battles. And the Archangel of Mysteries is the angel who illuminates the shadow. Then the equivalent of the queens, and I'm saying equivalent only because Benebell gives these equivalencies in this book, but again I think when you look at these and when you consider the meaning of them and so on, they are an interesting hierarchy in their own right and a different way of looking at the courts, and something I want to study a bit more of. So absolutely fascinating. The golden shield is the power of authority and fire. So these are the powers. The golden shield. The ivory shield is the power of authority of water. The scarlet shield is the power and authority of air. And the ebony shield is the power and authority of earth. So now the equivalent of the knights, and what Benebell describes these as being is so these are the virtues. Lightning and the fire, the shining flame. Waters and waves, the shining dew. A swirling gale, the shining winds. Wild and fertile land, the shining quarry. And now the equivalent of the pages, strongholds. Stronghold of the flame, herald of the awakening. Stronghold of the grail, herald of the purifying. By the way, I didn't show you, these are the backs. The cards are gilded. Beautiful cardstock. Not too stiff, not too flimsy, just gorgeous. Stronghold of the Grail, herald of the purifying. Stronghold of the Zephyrs, herald of the consummating. And stronghold of the Veil, herald of the darkening. So now we're moving on to the rest of the minors, and I'm going to just shuffle around to get some blood into my legs because I've been sitting in this position for ages. And I've probably got pins and needles about to start, so forgive me if I start screaming. So where are we? Yes, so now we're going into the fours, and I'll just go through now until the end of the deck, but I want to show you each of these. I'm not saying very much about the imagery, because I think to some extent the images A, speak for themselves, but B, are so complex and sophisticated that it would be very easy for me to say, oh, that looks a bit Rider-Waite-Smithy, and oh, there's a bit of thought in there, and there are some things I'm recognising, and there are other things where I think I'm going to have to go and study the book of maps to find out a bit more about why Benebell has put that particular image in. But at the moment I'm just enjoying the images, and I suspect you are too. I do want to comment on a particular card that's coming up, and I'll tell you when we get to it. So anyway, Four of Sceptres, the Demiurge. Four of Chalices, the Hollow Void. Four of Swords, the Convalescent. Four of Orbs, the Conservator. Five of Sceptres, the Contender. Five of Chalices, the Grotesque. Five of Swords, the Hector. Five of Orbs, the Vagabond. Six of Sceptres, the Champion. Six of Chalices, the Memory Keeper. This is the one I wanted to comment on. I've said in previous videos that one of the cards I often look at in a deck is the Six of Swords, because it's one of those cards that I always or often find very moving, and I do in this deck. The Ferryman, Six of Swords. Six of Orbs, the Giver. Seven of Sceptres, the Dark Horse. Seven of Chalices, the Corruptor. Seven of Swords, the Rogue. Seven of Orbs, the Gardener. Eight of Sceptres, the Sharpshooter. 8 of Chalices, the Defector. 8 of Swords, the Captor. 8 of Orbs, the Journeyman. 9 of Scepters, the Malaise. 9 of Chalices, the Wish Granted. 9 of Swords, the Haunt. Isn't that a brilliant name for the 9 of Swords? 9 of Orbs, the Eminence. 10 of Scepters, the Burdened One. And I'm very pleased that this next one is the little placemat that I had at my place at tonight's event. 10 of Chalices, the Joyous One. 10 of Swords, the Destroyer. And finally, 10 of Orbs, the Dynasty, or Dynasty, if you're on Scottish. But I am Scottish, so I'm saying Dynasty. 10 of Orbs. And that is the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. I want to finish by reading you what's on the back of the box. And this is a quote from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Beneficent in command and word was Isis, the goddess of magical spells. The company of gods rejoiced at the coming of Horus, the son of Osiris, the triumphant, whose heart was steadfast, son of Isis, heir of Osiris. Khepri, creator of the gods, you are seated upon your throne, illuminating your mother, Nut. Bull of Amentet, Thoth, the king of eternity, you are with me. My hair is the hair of Nut, goddess of the sky. My face is the face of Aten, disk of the sun. My eyes are the eyes of Hathor, goddess of joy. My ears are the ears of Wepwawet, god of war. May the eye of Horus protect me, keep me in safety, and may my adversaries fall down headlong before me. Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Benebell. Thank you, Benebell, for an amazing tarot deck and an amazing evening. And thank you all for being here. See you all soon. Take care.